Good morning, this is David Plazas, Community Conversation Editor of the News Press. It is June 15th, 2012. We have the privilege of having with us Peter Richter, who is a candidate for the Florida House. And editorial board members, would you please introduce yourselves for the record?
I'm Pam Grotehouse, citizen member from Bonita Springs.
I'm Luis Insignar, citizen member from South Fort Myers.
Dick Kalfish, Cape Coral.
And Mr. Richter, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for this position.
Well, I am I'm an IT consultant professionally. I have a small business. I like to help other small businesses with their IT services and things of that nature. And I realized that we've got a lot of problems in the country and in the state, and whether it's the Republicans in charge or the Democrats in charge, we're having the same problems. It seems like we have one big party that likes to spend a lot of money without any concern of the taxpayers. What I did is maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started re-educating myself, reading everything I could get my hands on about economics and politics, and I was particularly interested in the root of where our roots, where our rights come from, and the history of the Constitution and things like that. And what I discovered is that the politicians are simply completely they're not paying attention to the people, and they don't understand what the country was supposed to be to begin with, and they're running us off a cliff. So the more that you understand economics and the derivation of our rights, the more that you'll see this. So what I did is the more that I read, the more that I realized that the Republican Party wasn't for me anymore, even though I've been a Republican as far back as I could remember. So last year I changed parties. I became a libertarian, and I'm very happy that I did, because they seem to be the only ones that really mean what they say. They look at things unemotionally, and if you think about it, when do you make your worst decisions? You make your worst decisions when you're angry, and that's basically what we're doing. We hear all these stories in the press about this happening or that happening, and it gets everybody excited, it gets everybody emotional, and then nobody really cares about the right way to solve the problem anymore. And libertarians are, I think, really good at looking at the right way to fix the problem based on what the actual problem is, instead of just the first gut reaction to that comes into their mind. I really believe that libertarianism is on the rise. It's the answer to all the problems that we have, because it's essentially saying that that we have a right to be free, and freedom is necessary for all the other things that we want, whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats. We all mostly have the same goals, I think. I think there's a few extremists on both sides that don't want that, but for the majority of Americans, they really want the same things. And the way to get there is to understand the economics of the situation and to act upon that rationally. And that's what libertarianism brings. People on the right, they want to mandate morality, but really the only thing that's necessary for morality is liberty. When you have politicians left and right having all kinds of sex scandals and this scandal and that scandal, we can't look to the government to provide us for our morals. And similarly, we can't look to to those on the left to provide us liberty, because they haven't done a very good job of that. Pick your Democratic politician, and none of them are really defending liberties like they claim that they want to do. So I think libertarians pick the best from both sides. We pick the fiscal conservatism from the Republicans. We pick the civil liberties from the Democrats, and I think we put them together in a very nice package, and we understand where all of our rights come from, and that's really essential. So when you elect libertarians, you're not going to you're not going to be surprised with how we vote, because everything that we do is very principled, and we really believe in what we're doing. So, and the other reason I think it's very important for me to have run as a libertarian is that if you look at what our state legislature is doing, in February they passed a bill. It's called the Legislative Immunity Bill, and it didn't pass the entire House. It passed the House Judiciary Committee, and what it said was that if you, if the state legislators or the staffs, past, present, or future, were called to testify, they would not have to come to testify. They couldn't be prosecuted. They couldn't be called to provide documents or to explain what they were doing when they passed the bill. And you know, my opponent voted for this thing, and I just find it shocking that I think it's the epitome of corruption. And I think the way that you wake them up in Tallahassee is to take an area like Naples, which is over 60% Republican, and you say to them, look, you don't have to vote for every libertarian. You don't have to put libertarians in every seat, but try it here and see what happens, because that's going to send a message to all the other Republicans and all the other Democrats in the state legislature that they better start waking up. They better start paying attention to all the people that vote for them, and not just the big banks, not just the big corporations that pay all the lobbyists to bend their ear and fund their campaigns. Because otherwise, the people are going to start waking up, and we're going to elect people like me, libertarians, that really mean what we say.
If you're elected to office, what would be your priorities coming into office, coming into the 2013 legislative session?
My top priorities are, first, we need to fix the economy. And the way to do that is to get people in there that understand that the government can't fix it. You have to get the government out of the way. I've read an incredible amount of books on economics, and it's not the kind of economics that you learn in college. It's real economics that don't pretend to have formulas to predict everything, because you can't. I've also studied physics and electrical engineering, things like that. I don't have a degree in them, but I've taken a lot of classes. And in those types of hard sciences, we have constants that are always the same. The speed of light never changes, unless you're going through a different medium, right? So in space, it's a certain speed. And economics, they try to say the same thing. They try to say that we have constants and that we can build formulas to predict people's behavior based on those constants. But the constants are not real. They say that if the price of corn were $10 for a barrel or whatever, for the last 200 years, there's no guarantee that that's going to be the same tomorrow. It could change at any time based on the preference of individual consumers. And that's where the economics of that they teach you in school, the economics that our president uses, the Keynesian economics, fails, because you cannot predict human behavior. You can generalize, and you can say, well, people will generally do this given this situation, but you cannot build an accurate model based on that.
Are you saying the market should control?